What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpollia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online. As usual, today I was looking at my Lofty account and was pleasantly surprised that I have a redeem button for the Winkler Drive property. If you are unfamiliar with this property, it's in St. Louis, Missouri. It's one that Alec took over management of a while back. It's been sold in the real world. That sale happened about a month and a half ago. And we've been waiting for a redemption for quite a while. It seems that most of the wait actually came from Alec and his PM team, getting all the info to Lofty, getting them the funds. And then, Lofty does have a delay. The redemptions are never same day or instant, but, within a week or two usually. That's pretty important to me how long this takes, because my strategy on Lofty has primarily been to buy tokens, get the properties to sell in real life, like this one, and benefit from the arbitrage there, right? We bought it cheap tokens, sold it for more in the real world, and so timing matters a lot, right? If I'm trying to turn that money over regularly, and if I'm looking at my actual return over time. Is pretty important. And so if it takes an extra month from the time it closes in real life to the time I actually have cash in my account, that nerfs the returns a decent amount, right? I mean, because that's spreading out the hold period considerably. But regardless, I'm going to redeem this today. We didn't get any email saying, hey, this is the sale amount, this is how much that we should be able to redeem it for. Any sort of breakdown like that. I'm a little nervous, so I didn't hit the redeem button yet. I decided, hey, I'm just going to record the video. That way, if I do it and it just gives me like a wrong number, I'll at least have it on video. And I figured, well, I'm doing that, why don't I just do it as a YouTube? But you can see the last time there was actually a property update that I could put on the property page was all the way back in September. It's just really not acceptable, right? And I know Alex has just struggled because he took over so many properties. At a certain point, I think, and I don't know how much of this is going on behind the scenes or not, but I think Lofty really needs to put some pressure on people that are providing services to the Lofty investors, right? Like, obviously it's our job as the owners, but I think there a certain level of reporting should be required in order to maintain a property on their platform. And if the manager's not going to put anything up over time, there should be some repercussions to this. Basically, it's just my standard complaint. I would like a little bit more of a robust, actual requirements on here, where they're in order to, have a property listed on Lofty, updates have to be, somewhat regular. It's crazy that there's a sale that happened, a redemption button is created, and there's nothing on here that says, hey, this is how much it's sold for, this is what we expect per token, all that. I think that's sort of a very minimal request, and especially once it's around a sale, like, there's no longer any, we don't really have leverage on property managers as the DAOs, but Lofty as a platform could say, hey, if you're going to manage properties on our platform, you have to abide by XYZ requirements. I think that I believe they should be able to do that without running into the regulatory issues that they always mention whenever I want them to control the DAOs a little bit more, right? Because they're not saying, hey, you have to do this. They're saying, in order to stay on our platform, you have to do this. And I think those are two different things. Anyway, I'm not an expert in that area, but I think as a user of the platform, the fact that this happens so often, where there's some major thing happening and we're not finding out about it, we have to have some solution for that. And I don't know what it is. I know they have, are creating more requirements in order to list properties. Hopefully, there's going to be a little bit more oversight on, or a little bit more requirements for the PMs as well. We'll see where that goes. Anyway, getting back to this redemption. So I don't know what I'm supposed to get for it. I went into Lofty Assist and used the wallet scan so that I could see my transactions. I know there is a new transaction history on Lofty as well. So I probably could have exported it here. I've just gotten in the habit of using Lofty assists because they've been for a while they were giving me much better numbers, much more accurate than the transaction history. And this seems like this is just stuck here. I wonder why. I mean, I have thousands of results when I do it from Lofty Assist, so that might be why. So I just went into loftyassist.com/wallet-scan. I put my wallet in. I went to transactions. Actually, this is my closed positions that I'm looking at here. But I, exported all my transactions, and I got something that looked like just this side here, and I deleted everything that wasn't about Winkler. And so that was like over 2,000 entries for everything else. I just wanted my Winkler entries. And you can see I'm highlighting the ones. These are the ones that have to do with the 60 tokens that I currently own. I had bought and sold Winkler tokens several times as the price fluctuated. And that was what I was looking at Lofty Assist again for the closed positions. I can see the other three, the other times where I bought and sold tokens, the amount of profit that I made on each one of those. Profit and loss. So, not a ton of money, but I didn't have a bunch invested, but so I made $16 one of the time, $16 another, $15. But these were all, relatively quick buys and sells. This one actually, held half a year, so it wasn't amazing. This was probably the worst one. I guess I had 40 tokens that I held from January to July and didn't make much at all on, so that's kind of interesting. But then, but that's not what I'm just looking at the tokens that I currently own, when I purchased those and my redemption for that. And so, I just took the info that I got from here, put it in this table this way because I'm going to calculate an IRR. Because I don't know exactly what the redemption amount is supposed to be yet, I just set this up, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. Hopefully this makes sense. So when I look at my dashboard, I currently have $22.71. Just so I don't mess it up, right? I'm putting it there. So I'm going to hit redeem and see what my new number is, see how this works. Redeeming my tokens. Hopefully this actually works. I think I'm going to have to move this because usually it tells me to refresh up here after this happens. Oh, maybe it auto refreshes now. Please refresh the page to see the new balance. And what do I have in here now? This is exciting. I have no idea what it's going to be. Like none whatsoever. I don't have a good sense. Okay, $1,364.31. So I'm going to put that in here. $1,364.31. Is that right? Is that what I just said? 1341.60. No, not even close. 1364.31. All right, can I highlight that? Oh, I can highlight that. Wow, that was way off. Obviously, I need a nap. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's how much I have in there. Oh, maybe I was reading here. So 1364.31. I'm subtracting this from that number, right? Because this is what was already in my account. Well, let's just make that pretty. I just wanted it. So I already had the 2271. So that means I just redeemed $1,341.60. So I'm going to put that up here, right? So I'm going to say equals this number here. So that's how much I just redeemed. So I got $22.36 per token. I don't know if that's right, but that's what I got. So let's see. Now I'm going to calculate XIRR. So I'm just going to say equals XIRR parentheses values. So these are just all my purchase values over time. And then I'm going to just put in here, and I'm going to put my dates in, and you can see I filled in the date today that I just redeemed this. Close it. What is my, okay, and let's change this to a percent. 373% XIRR. That's fantastic, and that makes sense, right? Because I held it less than 6 months, right? Even like all of these tokens, or right around 6 months, right? And so what was my total? I'm going to actually just sum these as parentheses. This is the total of all of the purchases. Yes. Okay. And now let's change that to a positive. And so, and that's what I just redeemed. So equals this minus my total. I actually made $700 profit basically on a $635 purchase. So what is that profit actually? Just right there. Yeah, so I profited 111% on that transaction, but because I did it quickly, right, because of the time nature of this, my XIRR, my actual annualized return, is over 300%. That's pretty amazing. And this is these types of returns, man, I hope I'm not screwing up my math, but these types of returns are why I'm still on Lofty despite all of the concerns that I've brought up over time, right? Let's not redo this because I want to make sure what did it say? Where are we? Did I get rid of it already? I think it should still show up in here. Okay, yeah, because I didn't refresh this yet. So my basis per token for this, all fees included, and that's one of the reasons I really like using Lofty Assist. It showed me all fees included what my basis is, where you can't see it now, but if you go back in the video, you'll see that when Winkler, that it showed it at like $9 and change, but it was really $10.60. And so, yeah, it makes sense. I did actually so I paid $10.60 per token, and I just redeemed $22.36 per token. So it makes sense. That math works out, right? I made over 100% profit, 111%. But then, when you look at that over a time period, so that's amazing, right? To be able to double my money in right around 6 months, right? Less than 6 months on some of these tokens that I held, a little bit more on these. That's the opportunity that I see on here. Before I forget, please like and subscribe. In the description of this video, I have links to all the places where I'm currently investing in fractional real estate online, Lofty being one of them. But I want you to make sure, this is really exciting, right? To see, oh, wow, I'm making 300% returns. But you want to do your own due diligence on any of the platforms that I provide links to, on any of them that I'm talking about. Your results on here are not going to be the same as mine. Do your own due diligence on all of the properties that you're looking at. Just because I bought something doesn't mean that you should. Okay, I redeemed these for $22.36. There were plenty of people that paid $50 for these tokens and lost, more than 50% of what they invested. So if you're not careful, you can just as easily lose a bunch of money as make a bunch of money. Also in the description of this video, there's a link to the Discord that I set up, where a whole bunch of us fractional real estate investors, hang out every day, talk about different platforms, talk about due diligence on properties, talk about strategies, all that sort of thing. You're free to join that. It doesn't cost anything. It's not a sales funnel. You might get DM'd by someone who looks like me if you join. Report that person. They are an imposter, and I'm never trying to sell you anything in the DMs. Okay, yeah, so back to this. This is where I still think the huge opportunity is on Lofty. And we see a little less of it. Oh, we got my wrong thing going on there. We see less of it than there was maybe. Well, I say that. I mean, there's still, if we look at the marketplace and we look at the list view, right, and we sort these by token price, there's still plenty of tokens. Now, some of these tokens might be worth $0, right? Looking at you, Brownfield. Maybe after you account for the debt, these are worthless. I think that's possible. They have gone up 38% in the last couple of days because these were $9 recently. But you can see, there are still a lot of these deeply discounted tokens. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to sell these for a profit, right? For example, you might see this and say, oh, well, these are $21 tokens, so that's a discount from $50. But if that property happened to redeem for around what Winkler did, and you only get $21 or $22 per token, you're not doing very well, especially after fees, right? And slippage and whatnot. So I think there are still a lot of these opportunities on here. And that's why, I've been slowly taking my money off Lofty. I'm on the fence. I put a little bit more back on last week. I get nervous talking about the platform too much on this channel because I know so many people have lost money on here, and I don't like to see. I think that there's just a lot of danger in if you're not active in the Discord, if you're not my Discord, but Lofty's Discord, if you're not paying attention to the discussions happening around each property, if you're not really just digging into the situation. I did videos not too long ago about money that I lost on there, right? Like, I don't make money on every single deal. And one of the things too is one of the reasons that I see this as being a difficult move over the long term is, this isn't very much money, right? Like, yes, I made fantastic percent returns, but if I had invested 10 times as much money, I would have forced up the token price to a point where I probably wouldn't be making any money, right? And so as much as there's this room to make these huge returns with small investments, I just don't know how much I'm going to be able to do it with larger sums. So I might still take a little bit of this redemption off. I have a few more redemptions coming up. And so, as much as I'm really excited about a 370% XIRR, I mean, that's amazing. Or just a pure over 100% return, right? More than doubling my investment, is fantastic. Man, I'm going on about this. I really hope I got my math right, but I think I did. I think that that's right. Let's go back to Lofty Assist one more time and see what it said. It's saying my basis was $635, right? Position cost, yeah, $635. That's what I had in here, $635.83. So that seems right? That is actually how much I spent on these tokens, and I did just get the 1341. So it's a huge profit on a percentage basis. Not amazing on but if you're somebody who has a relatively small amount of money to invest, and I don't mean to say that with any sort of condescension or anything, doubling $600, or more than doubling it, right, is could be a fantastic result if you're someone who, and a good return on your time, if you don't mind digging into this, paying attention. $36.50 is the estimated price. This is frozen though. I don't, you couldn't buy right now. You're not supposed to be able to buy these when they're for sale anyway. But it's a great result. Just keep in mind you still have to be careful. I have, and also too, we need to put pressure on them, because let me show. This is one of the things. If for example, they had got this done a month sooner, which still would have been several weeks after the closing, or at least a couple of weeks, my XIRR would be over 500%, right? So just that change nerfed my returns like 130%. Is it more than that even? 160%. And that's because that's the opportunity cost of not being able to reinvest it and turn it over again. Now, obviously, when you're using, or maybe not obviously, but when you're using XIRR, it's assuming a reinvestment rate equal to the rate that you're getting, right? And so it's not necessarily like if I can't reinvest that, I'm not going to continue to get that type of return. But on Lofty at the moment, I think that there are still a lot of deals that I could invest in and get that are similarly undervalued. Maybe not a true double on my money, but if I'm going to get a 30% or 40%, which I've seen those plenty of times, I think this is actually the best one I've seen. I've got another one coming up that I think is closing in a couple of days. Where is it? Lipford. I think this one is actually closing in a couple of days. I don't think I'm going to do nearly as well on this one. I'm actually hoping to make some money, but we'll see. But yeah, I wanted to share that. it worked out. You know, my redemption worked properly. I did ask in the Discord what we should get per token. Hopefully they come back and say $22.36, and then I'll know that all of this turned out correct. If not, I mean, we'll just see, right? I'm curious, if you're in Winkler, how'd you end up doing, right? Did you have a cheap enough basis that you made some money, or did you get crushed because you bought this at 50 or 40 or 30 or even 25, right? I mean, that's the thing. More people are still losing money than making money when these tokens are so cheap. But if you got in more recently, if you bought properties last year, if you bought at very low token prices, you can see there's just these opportunities for massive profits on a percentage basis if you're willing to do the work and get in here. And that's why, as much as I see a ton of risk in the platform, and every time a process takes longer than it should, every time we're waiting for a month for a manager to get money and report things, like all that stuff just makes me nervous. I could have just as easily lost all this money because it sold and then that money was misappropriated. So there's just, as soon as there are more controls around all this stuff, though, I think a lot of this opportunity is going to go away, right? Like, these extremely cheap tokens relative to the real world values, I think are only just representative of how little trust people have in the Lofty platform. They're worried, and the managers in some instances, and the level of transparency that we're receiving around properties, right? Like, I didn't know if this property was actually worth anything in real life, right? Like, it's really hard to figure that out. I made an educated guess. In this case, I did tremendously well. I didn't know exactly how it was going to be before I hit record today, because I wanted to make sure that I had video of this. Anyway, that's it for me for today. Great little profit on a deal that, this is what's keeping me on Lofty. And so, it's funny, right? Like, it's funny to do so well on some of these, and at the same time still just feel uneasy about having money on here at all. But I think they're going in a good direction lately too. I think that there's, Max has been really active in the Discord, really seems to be trying to listen to criticisms and suggestions and whatnot. Not just from me, but from lots of people. They did update a few things specifically that I asked for, which is fantastic. So I am, like, I'm not in the, okay, I'm taking all my money off anymore. Like, that's not where I stand today. Am I going to take some of this off? Probably, but I'm definitely going to reinvest some of it too, because I see potential to do similar deals to this one again in the future from properties that are currently listed. Now that's really it for me for today. Until next time, I'm going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.